Hi, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Hawk. How are you?
Good morning, Judge. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Mr. Hilo, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have been incredibly busy today. You would be surprised to hear that I've been with Kathy, my court reporter, for the last hour and a half or so working on some other files. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I say hi to everyone else who is present here today.
Thank you.
Do you need to speak with me, Mr. Cravell, Mr. Hilo?
No, Your Honor. I believe everything we articulated last time, nothing's changed since the last time we've met, other than the fact, Your Honor, we provided a copy of a executed resignation from OPATA to both the state and to the court.
I saw. Mr. Cravell, you have the victim present with you, is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Reese's here with me. That's right.
Okay, excellent. I don't know, Mr. Cravell, if you could change the lighting in your room or move your computer. It's hard to see you right now.
You know what? I've tried to adjust it and let me try, my cord, because I went up to the courtroom.
Yeah.
It looks like, I know you're in a phony courtroom right now, I think, right?
I am using my courtroom background. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Because I went up and I thought, and then I grabbed a cord and it's too short and I'm just I was panicking to be on right on at 11. So my cord is short. I can't get it to better lighting, so
Okay.
I can but nobody wants to see me in
better.
That's
That's a little bit better, actually. Yeah, once we get the background in from the window, we can see a little bit better, and that's helpful. All right, so Kathy, let's go on the record if we could, please. This is case number 649261. It's captioned State of Ohio versus John Hawk. Mr. Hilo is here on behalf of the defendant. Mr. Hawk is present along with Mr. Cravell from the prosecutor's office. We are all appearing via Zoom at this time because, of course, of the global pandemic and the court's desire to limit the spread of people in the courthouse and, of course, limit the spread of COVID-19 in our building, which is there is an outbreak currently in our Cuyahoga County Jail. With that being said, Mr. Hilo, do you waive your client's physical presence in the courtroom at this time?
I do, Your Honor, and also it should be noted for the record, I do have COVID at this time, so I would be putting other people at risk, and Mr. Hawk's aware of it, and we waive our presence in courtroom.
Thank you, Mr. Hilo. I'm sorry to hear that you've been ill, and I wish you well. And I hope that you have a speedy recovery. Mr. Cravell, do you waive your physical presence in the courtroom at this time?
Yes, Judge.
All right. And Mr. Cravell, I know you have the victim present as well, and we talked a great deal about her perspective, and I know that Mr. Hawk and the victim in this case, they were engaged in a relationship together, and I know that the victim also has a child that is Mr. Hawk's child. Is that correct?
I think that the results are, we want to, before I comment on it, I don't want to tread on any results that may be out there.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Hilo, I know that your client is a Cleveland police officer. He has surrendered his OPATA certificate and he's given his resignation to the Cleveland Police Department. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And that was part of the plea negotiations in this case. And I want to note that the victim consented to the plea in this case. Is that correct, Mr. Cravell?
It is, and I think Ms. Reese, she's sitting next to me. I could have her speak to that here if you would like.
Absolutely. So why don't we begin with her and what the state is requesting as it relates to sentencing at this time?
Okay. Well, before I turn it over to her, I'd say that the state has essentially gotten what it's asked for in the plea bargain, and it's never it's always unfortunate when we have a case that involves a police officer, and often in those situations we request that person resign from employment and resign their certificate to perform as a police officer ever again. it's significant, we believe, to end a career in law enforcement. We don't take that lightly, and that's what's happened here. But without further ado, I'll ask Ms. Reese to comment on Your Honor's request. Okay.
Thank you. Hello, Ms. Reese. How are you?
Good, Judge. How are you?
I'm good. I want to tell you that I was concerned for you. I talked to Mr. Cravel and Mr. Hilo, and of course, Mr. Hawk, a great deal about your perspective, how you were feeling, what happened to you. The last time that Mr. Hawk and I met was during the course of the plea, and I was deeply concerned for him and deeply concerned for you because obviously I know that the two of you potentially have a child together, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, you know, what is your intention as it relates to moving forward with Mr. Hawk? I know that you were in a relationship with him, and obviously things went horribly wrong, correct?
Correct. In that moment, yes.
Yeah. So how do you feel now?
I'm not entirely sure. I think communication would be definitely the first step in finding any kind of closure.
So does that mean that you want to speak with him again, that you want to move forward with a relationship? What are your intentions?
I think that it goes both ways, and I would like to know how he feels as well before I answer that question.
Okay. So what does that mean? Like moving forward with raising your child together or having a relationship together again?
Potentially having a relationship again.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Why? Why do you want to have a relationship with someone that hurt you so badly?
Because I knew who he was before then.
Okay. What do you think caused this problem?
It was a sporadic moment and a crazy night. I don't think it was meant to happen at all.
Okay. You know, I think that you are forgiving under the circumstances because I know that you were hurt and I was concerned for you. I also know that, you know, Mr. Hawk's prior job and his work, not just as a police officer, but as an MMA fighter, correct, Mr. Hawk?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, your ability to cause physical damage to people, to hurt them based on your prior history is pretty significant. I understand that, you know, I mentioned to you that I was deeply concerned about what happened, and I know that you recall that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember me talking to you about the fact that, you know, there are lots of people that have drunken fights in relationships with their significant other, but they don't go to this extreme, right? I mean, we all have relationships, we all have families, nobody gets along all the time, but this is beyond what would be anything that would be considered reasonable, or I don't even know what the word is, right? I'm very concerned.
No,
for both of you.
Can I speak, ma'am?
Yes, you may.
Okay. No, I just last time we talked, I never really thought about, you talk about like the brain injuries. So I've been doing research and trying to get help that way because I do believe just all the years of getting cracked in the head and stuff is probably not a good thing. You know, it probably messes up. You can't really say CTE because you can't really get that till after you die. You know, they can't really prove that till after you pass away, and they
Correct.
do research that way. So, but at the same time, I think I probably have some sort of ailments of that where when we talked, I never thought about it until you actually told me. So I've been researching, looking at it and seeing if I could, you know, get someone maybe to talk to help with and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate you bring that up to me because no one really ever brought that up to me. And so I do appreciate that.
So, you know, I was concerned, and for Miss Reese's benefit, I mentioned to you that I thought that maybe you might have suffered some injuries to your brain based on all the fighting that you did, and that you might have traumatic brain injury type issues that that created this problem for you. I'm not a doctor, certainly, or a psychiatrist, but the pattern of what happened on the night that you were together strikes me as something that someone in your position might have had a traumatic brain injury, or have been dealing with the after effects of what has occurred. And so we certainly know that people that have TBIs or traumatic brain injuries have impulse control issues, anger issues, and it sounds like that's what happened under the circumstances here. But I also told you that under no circumstances, was what happened here acceptable. I mean, aside from the fact that you're a police officer, just as the idea of being in a relationship with someone that you said that you loved, that you've created a child with, is totally unacceptable. Totally. Ms. Reese, what would you like to see happen here today?
Just a resolution, Your Honor.
What kind of resolution?
I'm unsure. The agreement was for John to lose the APATA license for his ability to be a police officer ever again, and I agreed with that.
Okay. And Mr. Hilo, what do you want to say on behalf of your client today?
Your Honor, I just like to say there's a lot of issues that have been addressed as a result of this case. Significantly, what this court brought to the attention to my client, that we did have discussions about potential injuries that he suffered as a result of being an MMA fighter. Also significant, Your Honor, in the 40 years that he's been on this earth, he had no prior occasions of any type of violence whatsoever. So if we look at all cases of an individual, he has no history of violence, no history of any criminal wrongdoing. And also, Your Honor, because we've worked towards this, because there has been communication between the victim and the state of Ohio and myself, and there's been no violations of any of the orders that the court has imposed. We've been able to reach this resolution mutually and with the cooperation of the victim. And there's a plan going forward, because there's a lot of considerations in the future. He has paid a significant price. He's paid a significant price personally, but he knows that he's responsible for the price that he's paying. But the two of them together now have a future that they have to look ahead to. And there's a future that they have to work together on. It's going to have to be both emotionally, and it's also going to have to be economically for those things that they got to work on together. And the punishment here, he knows he accepts responsibility. He has moral insight into what happened, but he has paid a significant price here. And moving forward, Your Honor, I ask the court, and I know the court will take all into consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hilo. So I guess my biggest concern for both of you right now is that you have a child together. You plan on essentially somewhat moving forward as it relates to raising your child. But I want to, I don't want to throw you both into a situation where, the no contact order is lifted and then there's another fight or argument between you, because I'm afraid for both of you, right? I'm afraid, Mr. Hawk, that you will lose your ability to keep yourself under control, and that you so I want to craft a sentence here today for both of you, and I've been thinking about it significantly about what would be the best solution here. So I guess at this point, do you intend to at the very least see each other or engage with each other as it relates to your child? Mr. Hawk, how do you feel?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, this child, that's all that matters now in my life. I told Miss Riki that, whatever we did, we have to push that aside, because we got a little one now for the next at least 18 years to give him the best life ever. I mean, I'm sorry for everything I did, and I can't change that now, but now we have a solution. We have a solution now where we have a baby now involved in our life. And I've never had a child, ma'am. And I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I want to try to raise it to the best possible. I mean, whatever I have to do is to get I told Kaylee that, it's not about us anymore. It's about the kid. And
Sure. What is your baby's name?
Braxton,
All right. How old is Braxton now?
7
month,
weeks. Your Honor.
month and a half.
7 weeks, Your Honor.
7 weeks. So he's a new baby. Congratulations. I'm happy for you, and I'm concerned for you, right? So can you imagine, it's an odd position to be in right now, because I know that you have a new baby, and I myself have children. I know what it feels like to want your significant other to be a part of that child's life. So this is an interesting set of circumstances. So the plea agreement has been fulfilled, right? The OPATA license has been surrendered, and the police, the resignation from the police department has been concluded. So now we're in a point where, how do we move the two of you forward under the circumstances so that you can manage the raising of your child together and not create any additional incidents of violence between you two? Mr. Hawk, do you have any plans? What is your job right now? What are you doing now?
I'm not doing nothing right now, ma'am. I'm just helping every once in a while. I help buddies out, getting paid a little here and there.
So what kind of job do you anticipate doing in the future?
Trying to get in the union.
Okay.
Either a labor union or electrical union, ma'am.
Do you have experience in those fields?
Labor, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, that would be a good solution at this point. Are you working, Miss? It's Riki, right? Riki?
Richie, Your
Richie,
Honor.
I'm sorry. I keep
No,
hearing
that's okay.
different last names pronounced here. Miss Richie,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I actually work at both Amazon and my mother's daycare full time. I worked at Amazon while I was pregnant, third shift. And I just recently started at my mother's daycare about a week ago. I work in the toddler's room. I'll be head teacher in the toddler 2 room with the 2-year-olds.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear that things are going smoothly for you, and your baby will be with you, right?
That was the big thing. I wanted him to be there with me.
Are you going to continue to work at Amazon as well?
They have a couple of options. I'm actually going to head there later on today and see what my options are and if they'll be able to work with me at all.
Excellent. I'm happy for you. Are you feeling better, by the way?
I am.
I'm glad that you have recovered and that you have done well. There is currently a no contact order between the two of you, correct?
Correct.
And, I usually continue no contact orders as it relates to my sentences when it comes to domestic violence cases. So when I review your sentence with you, Mr. Hawk and Miss Ritchie, we're going to talk about what the future is going to look like, so that maybe we can get you both to a place where you were able to communicate, but in some time. All right. So, certainly not immediately. Mr. Hawk, I'm assuming you have not seen your child yet.
I seen him a couple weeks ago, ma'am, when we did the paternity test.
Okay. So that's when you have seen him. But since then, you have not been able to see him.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Miss Ritchie, you want Mr. Hawk to see his child?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, the court, having considered all of the required factors under 29, 11, 12, and 13, at this time places the defendant on 2 years of community control sanctions, and that will be under the supervision of the Domestic Violence Unit of the Court of Common Pleas, the Probation Department. Mr. Hawk will follow all the rules and regulations of the Probation Department. You will attend all of the domestic violence classes, and you will complete those classes. I'm also ordering that you have a mental health evaluation so that we can determine whether or not you have suffered any traumatic brain injury as a result of how many years were you part of the MMA, Mr. Hawk?
15 years, ma'am.
So I'm going to say the answer is probably yes, but let's go forward with that mental health evaluation. In addition, as you know, I'm a mental health court judge in addition to my regular docket, and you would remain with me even if, in fact, it's discovered that you might have had some traumatic brain injury as a result of your years of fighting in the MMA. That will be helpful in determining your course of treatment from here on out. Also, you will have no drugs, no alcohol. You will follow all the rules and regulations of the probation department. And of course, you've already surrendered your OPATA license as well, your job with the Cleveland Police Department. I am going to order, of course, that you also seek and find employment and that you begin the process of child support, which I think will be important under the circumstances here, especially for the two of you and for your new baby. I am going to order so the no contact order is going to remain in effect. And in 30 days, I would like to see the progress that you have made, Mr. Hawk. And of course, Mr. Hilo, we can come back to court, whether it's via a Zoom meeting, and we can evaluate how things have started with your probation officer. I then sometimes will offer people limited contact. So to begin with, phone contact, text messages. There are ways that you can communicate that will hopefully begin a safe process of some sort of reunification for both of you. And maybe we can take baby steps, literally, to bring you both back together again so that you can parent your child together in a meaningful way. So that will be the order of the court at this time. Mr. Hawk, if you violate any of the terms and conditions of my supervision, you face 180 days in the county jail. I am going to order that you pay court costs as well, or you can do community service, community work service in exchange for your court costs in this matter. And we will proceed from there. I'm going to have you, Mr. Hilo, set up a meeting with the court, yourself, and the defendant's probation officer, who will be part of the domestic violence unit. And we can then review how things are going from there and move forward with possibly lifting the no contact order. But at this time, the no contact order will remain until we see how everything gets started. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, everybody. Ms. Ritchie, thank you very much for being here. Good luck to you. Mr. Hawk, good luck to you as well.
Thank you, ma'am.